Alright, gonna make a video for Mr. Moss, the tutorial on jerkbait fishing. I mentioned the Bass Assassin, but it looks like that company may not be in business. And when we used to fish a lot of small ponds, that's what we fish with a lot up at Hiram Lee's place. So it looks like most of that's been taken over by Zoom. I think that's just because they got to deal with Walmart and a lot of stuff is coming out. But nevertheless, um, these uh, flukes, they're called flukes. Like this is a white pearl, albino, baby bass. A lot of these things work really good in big water, so I'm not 100% sure how well they'll work in a pond, but nevertheless worth a shot. I got a bunch of miscellaneous stuff I'm gonna put in this bag. That's a red shad. Never had any luck with it on big water, but man, is that thing, it just looks good. Looks like it should be good. So anyway, so those are called flukes. This is a trick worm. It's just a worm that has absolutely nothing, but it's straight. And there's two ways you can hook these things. In the old days, that was just a regular worm hook, and I'm going to include these in there too. But then people got away from that and started going to these extra wide gaps. The good thing about the extra wide gap is it works real well with a lot of these flukes, and I'll either record a separate video on that. But over the last 4 or 5 years, it seemed like we even got better hook set with some of these. So how do you hook these things? The best thing to use is a fairly good open face reel. I know you said some of the reels you got, or most of them are not real good, but it's in my experience fishing these things with an open face. It allows you to actually skip the bait. And if you look at this bait that we've got on here, it's kind of rugged. And for whatever reason, when those things get kind of worn out like that, they seem to work better. So I guess the point is, put you a new one on there, catch a couple of fish, and don't throw it away, because that's a lot of times when they get good. I'm going to include a couple of swivels, a couple of these really small swivels. This line doesn't have it, but normally how we would rig these things is we would put a swivel right here, and that swivel does a couple different things. One, gives you a little bit more weight. So as you can see, there's no weight on this, so it gives you a little bit more weight so you can throw it. And secondly, people always say that this will have a tendency to twist your line fishing that way, and the swivel obviously will keep your line from twisting. Personally, I've never had any issue with it, but last but not least, it allows you to tie a different size header or leader on there. This is a 6-pound test. You're going to get this because I don't know if it's any good fishing line or not, but I found it in the drawer. But this is some 8-pound that we use. You can see I date it because this stuff, if it gets 5, 6, even 10 years old, it won't pass the stress test. But on 8 or 6-pound tests, you can catch 10, 12-pound bass as long as you got your drag set right. But the reason we use an open face is it'll actually allow you to skip the bait across the water. This works, my experience mostly been from in a boat, throwing back towards a bank, and you can skip it and it looks so realistic from a shad jumping across the water. It's gonna be a little bit more tricky fishing from the bank. If you're right-handed, I guess you could throw it down the left side of the bank skipping it. Shouldn't be any reason you couldn't do that. But anyway, I'll put this together and send it to you, and hope you guys have a lot of luck. I did want to do that real quick tutorial on how to hook this thing. If you look and you'll see that this hook is actually buried, and this is a regular worm hook, but it's buried on the inside. So if a fish bites that, in principle, it should jump out pretty quick. This extra wide gap, it's just a little bit different way. But the more I got to thinking about it, this thing's got a hook that goes in, and I think it's gonna have more of a tendency to stay in, whereas a regular worm hook has a tendency to jump out like that. Another option with this extra wide gap though, let me pull this out. Another option is to actually rig this thing backwards, where you actually put the hook in that way and you're going in through the cavity. We're going to push up on the cavity like that and then have that come out, and then what you end up with is that hook sitting ready to jump out like that. Even as I mentioned before, we've gotten away with the most recently not even using these kind of hooks, using the regular worm hooks, just because they just seem to jump out. But anyway, good luck, guys. Did just remember that I forgot one thing. I hadn't explained to you how to fish it. When you throw it out, again, we're going to try to skip it. Normally you would do that, throwing it kind of underhand, just similar to how you would throw in a rock. Let it land, and then twitch it once or twice. Twitch it once, and then so the bait's going to dart. It's not going to dart straight, it's going to dart, and it's going to look like a fish trying to evade a bass, so that's a big deal. Or you can actually twitch it twice, or even twitch it 3 times. A lot of the times it's not going to be like a regular plastic worm. It's going to be more, a lot of the times, believe it or not, you'll see the line twitch. And if you see that line twitch, just go ahead and set the hook. But it's a lot of waiting. Twitch once or twice, let it sit there 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Twitch it once, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. You got to play with it. Sometimes you may have to actually twitch it a little bit quicker. But again, if you see that bait move, a lot of times I caught an 8-pound bass 2 years ago, and all I saw was a flash. Didn't see the line move, I just saw a flash, and I just set the hook. So anyway, be prepared, a lot of waiting, a lot of twitching, and you'll be good to go.